Jennifer and Mark were enjoying a beautiful camping trip with their kids. It was the last day of their vacation, and they were going on a hike up the hills and to a river, where they would rent a boat to explore the waters. However, when their son, Ian, spotted a strange log in the water, their plans were about to change drastically. They decided to pull it out, and what they saw next absolutely shocked everyone who was there. However, the log was still a bit too far away for him to reach it by himself. When he finally found someone who wanted to help him pull it out, he couldn't contain his excitement. But when he finally managed to pull the log out of the water, he screamed as hard as he could. And so did everyone else around him. What exactly did Ian pull out of the water? What was going on with this log? And why did he scream? But before we start, smash the like button and make sure to subscribe if you haven't. And hit that notification bell so that you won't miss any new stories. Jennifer and Mark were on their first family camping trip, and they absolutely loved it. It was much more relaxing than they had expected, and they were having a great time. And the kids even enjoyed it as well. During breakfast on their last day, Ian and Violet were begging their parents not to leave yet. And for now, that was enough. They were ready to have an amazing last day, still unaware of what would happen next. After breakfast, the family of four went on a hike in the mountains. As today was their last day, they were going on another hike to finish off their vacation. They drove to the edge of the forest by car, and then they started their hike up the hill. They had never seen so many different animals and plants in one day. They hiked up the mountain, and Ian and Violet kept running ahead of their parents. They would rent a little boat and explore the water before returning to their camper. And since the kids had never been on a boat before, they were super excited about this. The kids were still excited to finally get on that boat, but for the rest of the hike, they stayed closer to their parents. After about an hour, the four took a short break to eat and drink something. However, they didn't rest for long since they were close to their destination now. Another 30 minutes or so later, the kids were running through the open field. After Violet and Ian had enough of running around, they came back to their parents to get some rest. They just relaxed on the blanket for a while. Mark jumped up and said, "Okay then, is everybody ready to get on that boat? We better go while the sun is still shining, just in case we get wet." The kids were immediately ready for this. They had been looking forward to it, and in their eyes, it was a huge adventure. However, they all had no idea that they were never going to get on that boat. A huge disappointment was waiting for them, but that wasn't the only thing. "I'm sorry, man, but all my boats are out on the water already. You'll have to wait until someone returns, and then you can have your turn." And so, that was what they did. They sat by the water and played random games to pass the time. They skipped stones, played I Spy with My Little Eye, and even some word games. And when they were done, they just sat on the grass and enjoyed the sun until the man with the boats would tell them they could go out on the water. Ian was getting bored, so he started walking around the edge of the river. He looked for insects and other animals in the grass, but he was very careful of any snakes. He still had no idea that there actually were no snakes in this area, and his parents had fooled him and his sister. Mark and Jennifer would tell them about this later, but for now they got a good laugh out of it. It was a harmless prank, and they just wanted to make sure the kids were being careful and aware of their surroundings. And it had definitely worked. You see, as Ian stood by the water edge, he looked around and he noticed something. There was this log in the water, a couple of meters away from the land. Ian had noticed it before, but somehow the log had moved. And as he looked at it, it moved again. He ran back to his parents to tell them about it, but his dad told him it was just the current of the river moving the log. Ian was not satisfied with this answer. As he went back to take another look at the log, he saw that it was still moving. His dad's theory just couldn't be right. The movements were way too jerky and sudden for it to be carried by the current. He thought about jumping into the water for a second, to see what was underneath it for himself, but then he remembered the snake again, and he quickly shook that thought out of his head. He looked around and spotted a long stick in a bush nearby, and then he had an idea. He grabbed the stick, ripped it off, and pulled all the leaves off it. He got as close to the edge as he could, grabbed a tree to keep his balance, and leaned forward as far as he could towards the log. He tried poking at it with the stick, but nothing really happened. The stick was too thin to really be useful here. He asked his dad for help, and they found a way to pull the log out of the water. However, when they saw the reason why it had been moving around like that, they screamed. There was a crocodile in the river. Nobody got hurt, and they did not go on that boat anymore. But all four of them were going to remember this adventurous vacation forever.